Have you ever noticed how silently a cat watches you from across the room, its golden eyes unblinking, its body still as stone, yet coiled with invisible power? There is something ancient in that gaze, something older than civilization itself. We often think of the creatures who live with us as mere pets, harmless companions who eat from our hands and sleep on our couches. But certain beings, like cats, are not merely in our homes, they are in our minds. They carry an older presence, one that can influence our inner life in ways we rarely understand, and this is why one great psychologist of the past gave a curious warning. To have a cat in your house is not just to host an animal, it is to invite an archetype, a living symbol of mystery and the unconscious. What he meant was not that cats are evil or dangerous, but that they awaken forces within us we must be prepared to face. Let us explore 5 profound truths behind this warning, truths that may forever change how you see the quiet creature curled at your feet. Cats have long walked the thin border between the ordinary world and the realm of symbols. They are creatures of silence, slipping like smoke through the dim corridors of our lives, appearing when they are not called and vanishing when we seek them. They do not walk toward us so much as they materialize beside us, and then, as if they were only a passing thought, dissolve again into the darkness. It is no accident that through centuries of human imagination, cats have been bound to the image of the hidden, the nocturnal, the unknowable. In ancient temples they curled around the feet of gods. In the quiet of lonely houses they curl around our hearts. Their presence is always soft, yet uncanny, as though they carry in their fur a whisper from the invisible world. And in this silent companionship lies their most unsettling gift. They embody the shadow that dwells within us. The shadow is not merely the dark or evil in us, but all that we have not yet allowed ourselves to be. It is the unspoken, the unaccepted, the forgotten. We bury in it our anger, our grief, our forbidden longings, but also our unlived strengths and unclaimed passions. Most of us spend our lives building strong walls to keep it hidden, fearing that to face it would destroy the fragile image we present to the world. But the cat does not respect these walls. It passes through them as easily as it slips through half-open doors at night. To live with a cat is to live with a living symbol of this buried part of the psyche. Their eyes reflect not what stands before them, but what lies beneath. When they stare at you from across the room, unmoving, unblinking, it feels as though they are peering through your mask, stripping away every pretense, and seeing what you would rather not see yourself. They provoke us not through loud defiance, but by their quiet refusal to submit. They do not obey, and in this disobedience they summon the parts of us that long to break free from our own self-imposed cages. Consider how differently people respond to them. Some are enchanted, drawn to their softness, their mystery, their detached affection. Others bristle, feeling uneasy, suspicious of their unpredictable nature. But these reactions are rarely about the cat. They are mirrors of the soul. A man who fears losing control will see in the cat a threat to his order. A woman who hides her wildness will find its silent independence intolerable. I once knew a friend who prided himself on his discipline and composure. Every detail of his life was arranged with military precision, the books aligned on the shelf, the schedules etched into every hour of his day. When he brought home a stray cat, he imagined it would adapt to his order as everything else had. But within days the creature had torn his curtains, scattered his papers, and ignored every attempt at training. He raged not because of the mess, but because the cat revealed the chaos he had locked away inside himself. In its disregard for his rules, It gave form to the disorder he feared most. This is the secret danger of the cat. It does not harm by claw or fang, but by awakening. It whispers to the unconscious, stirring the parts of us we have silenced. It prowls not only through the rooms of the house, but through the corridors of the psyche, brushing against the locked doors we would rather keep closed. And once touched, these hidden places begin to stir. You may find yourself dreaming vividly again, or feeling emotions you had long numbed. You may feel sudden restlessness, an urge to break patterns, to question what you once accepted without thought. The cat will not explain this to you. It simply sits and watches, its tail flicking like the pendulum of an invisible clock, as if marking the slow unraveling of your defenses. There is something profoundly unsettling in this, but also profoundly necessary. For the shadow we deny does not disappear. It waits. It waits in the silence, in the spaces between our words, in the pauses when we are alone. It waits for something to draw it into the light. The cat, with its golden gaze and patient stillness, often becomes that something. Without knowing why, we may find ourselves confessing secrets aloud to it, as though its silence could absolve us. We may feel seen in ways that are both comforting and terrifying, as if the creature curled beside us understands not who we pretend to be, but who we truly are beneath the mask. And yet this confrontation, though disquieting, is a gift, because the shadow, when faced, does not destroy us. It completes us. The parts we hide are not enemies, but exiles longing to return. When we integrate them, they cease to sabotage our lives from the dark. They become sources of strength, creativity, vitality. The cat's refusal to conform teaches us what it means to be whole, to accept the wild alongside the tame, the darkness alongside the light. It does not apologize for what it is. It moves through the world with quiet certainty, claiming space without explanation. It asks us, by its mere existence, to do the same. But to receive this gift, we must be willing to look into the mirror it offers. We must be brave enough to feel what rises when its presence stirs the hidden places within us. This is why many find living with a cat strangely intense, even when the creature does nothing at all. Its silence is not empty, it is full. It carries the weight of centuries of instinct and mystery, and it awakens in us what we have forgotten. If we are unwilling to face this, we may grow agitated, even hostile. We may blame the cat for our discomfort, not realizing that it is only reflecting what was already there. The warning, then, is not of danger from the cat, but of danger from ourselves, if we refuse the call it brings. If we cling to our masks and flee from our depths, its presence will unsettle us. But if we dare to sit with that unease, to follow its gaze inward, we may find in its quiet company the path to our own wholeness. For in truth, what we fear in the cat is not its wildness, but our own. It does not awaken anything alien. It awakens what has always belonged to us, waiting in the dark, patient as a shadow, until something with golden eyes walks silently into our lives and teaches us how to see. There is a reason why cats have always been cloaked in the aura of the sacred feminine. Long before they were curled on our couches, they were carved into the stones of temples, radiant with divine mystery. In the shrines of ancient Egypt, they moved silently around the altars of Bastet, the goddess of protection, fertility, and tender ferocity, their very bodies woven from the threads of grace and danger. This image did not vanish with time. It slipped quietly into the collective soul, where it still lives. Even now, when a cat enters a room, there is something unmistakably regal in its carriage, as though it is not simply walking, but gliding on the currents of an invisible law. It does not ask for permission to exist. It simply exists, whole and entire, and this alone is enough to unsettle something deep within us, for they are not merely animals to us. They awaken the archetype of the feminine, the anima, that quiet and profound current of life which flows within every human soul. It is the energy of receptivity, intuition, sensuality, creativity, tenderness, and fierce protectiveness, all at once. Most of us, shaped by cultures that exalt conquest, control, and rigid order, have learned to bury this part of ourselves. We call it weakness, we call it softness, we call it vulnerability, but these are only the names fear gives to what it cannot command. When the cat arrives, she does not fight this fear. She dissolves it, not with force, but with presence. To live with a cat is to invite this hidden force into your daily life, and that invitation is never without consequence. For some, it is healing. They find themselves softening, breathing more deeply, becoming gentler with themselves. They begin to notice the subtler rhythms of existence, the way sunlight drifts across the floor, the way silence can hold you like an embrace. The cat does not demand affection, but receives it like a queen receiving tribute, and in this she teaches that love is not earned through submission, but offered in mutual recognition. This lesson can restore something ancient and forgotten in those who have spent their lives striving to prove their worth. But for others, this same presence can feel deeply unsettling, even threatening. One man once told me with a sharp laugh that he could never stand cats because they never obey, they do what they want. He meant it as a dismissal, but I heard in his voice a trace of something more, a tremor of unease. What unsettled him was not their disobedience, but their freedom, the kind of freedom he had long exiled from himself. He had spent his life tightening every bolt of his own nature, sealing every unpredictable impulse behind the armor of duty and control. And here was a creature who slipped past every lock, who moved as though no will but her own could touch her. It was not that she disrespected him, it was that she lived in a way he had forgotten was possible. This is the subtle power of the feminine archetype as the cat embodies it. It does not conquer, it simply refuses to be conquered. It does not argue with force, it renders force irrelevant. Watch how a cat crosses a room, not hurried, not hesitant, but with the poise of something that has never doubted its right to be. This is not arrogance, though it is often mistaken for it. It is sovereignty. And sovereignty is terrifying to those who have confused power with domination. The feminine does not seek to control the world. It invites the world to reveal itself. It listens instead of conquering. It intuits instead of calculating. It yields not in defeat but in trust, knowing that to open is not to lose but to receive. This way of being has been buried in many of us, covered over by layers of fear, shame, and relentless striving. We build walls against our own softness, fearing it will make us weak, not realizing that what we call weakness is the wellspring of life itself. The cat does not break these walls. She simply walks through them as though they were never there. And once she does, something begins to stir. Old emotions rise like forgotten rivers breaking through dry earth. Intuition sharpens. Creativity blooms from hidden roots. There may even come a sudden ache, a yearning for something unnamed, something long denied. This is the voice of the anima awakening. It is not gentle at first. It can feel like standing at the edge of an unknown ocean, not knowing if it will cradle you or swallow you whole. Many resist this call. They become irritated, dismissive, mocking. They accuse the cat of aloofness, of arrogance, of lacking loyalty, never seeing that what they despise is the reflection of their own rejected nature, for to accept the feminine is to surrender to mystery. It is to allow life to move through you instead of trying always to move against it. It is to trust your inner rhythms, to let your heart guide you when logic falters, to embrace the paradox of being both soft and unbreakable. The cat embodies this paradox perfectly. She can melt in your arms like water, then vanish without warning into the dark. She can purr like a lullaby and strike like lightning. She belongs to you and belongs to no one. To live alongside her is to be reminded over and over that true power is not force but wholeness. The warning is that this reminder will not leave you unchanged. If you have built your life upon rejecting the feminine, if you fear your own vulnerability, if you mistrust intuition, if you equate tenderness with weakness, then the cat will be your silent adversary. She will not attack you. She will simply go on being herself until the friction between her presence and your repression becomes unbearable. She will walk like a queen through your rooms, and her every step will ask you a wordless question. Why have you denied this in yourself? Why have you abandoned the part of you that moves with grace instead of force, that listens instead of commands, that loves without needing to possess? And if you can answer, if you can open even a little to that forgotten current, you may discover that what you feared as weakness was always your truest strength. You may find that what you called chaos is a deeper order, what you called softness is a greater courage, what you called disobedience is the soul remembering how to breathe. This is the secret of the cat, and of the feminine she calls forth. She will not bend to your will, but she will call you back to your own. She will awaken in you what the world has taught you to suppress, and she will do it not through force or argument, but through the quiet, unshakable fact of her being. And so she walks, tail high, eyes half, lidded with ancient knowing, moving like a dream through your house. You may resist her, you may scoff or scowl or turn away, but you will feel it, the stirring, the soft upheaval, the forgotten tide rising again within you. And once it begins, there is no stopping it. The feminine does not conquer by battle. It returns like spring, and like spring it will reclaim you, no matter how long you have kept yourself frozen. There is a peculiar stillness in the presence of a cat, a stillness that feels less like idleness and more like listening to something beyond the reach of human ears. They will sit for long stretches without moving, their eyes fixed on an empty corner, as though they are watching the invisible. Unlike dogs, who exist fully in the tangible world of action and response, cats seem half, rooted in another realm, as if one part of them is always elsewhere. This quality has led many cultures to believe they walk between worlds, slipping through the veil that separates what we can see from what we cannot. Even in modern homes, they carry with them this quiet echo of the unseen, and it is this that gives their presence its strange gravity. Psychologically, they stand as living symbols of the threshold between our conscious mind and the vast, submerged world beneath it, the unconscious. We spend most of our lives moving across the thin surface of awareness like skaters on ice, rarely glimpsing the deep waters below. But the unconscious is always there, watching, storing everything we have forgotten, denied, or never fully understood. It speaks to us in dreams, in fleeting intuitions, in the sudden image that rises unbidden when we are still. The cat, with its half-closed eyes and silent paws, seems to belong to that world, and when it comes near, something in us begins to stir. It is as though its presence thins the barrier between our daylight mind and the hidden realm within. This is why so many solitary souls and creative spirits have sought their company. Throughout history, writers, artists, mystics, and dreamers have lived alongside cats not simply as pets, but as companions of the unseen. They have watched them slink through the shadows like living metaphors of the subconscious, felt their quiet breathing beside them while they wrote or painted or prayed, and sensed that these creatures were guarding the doorway to some deeper well of vision. A cat does not distract you from your solitude. It deepens it. It amplifies the silence until you can hear the faint echoes of your own soul. But this is precisely where the warning lies. For when the wall between the conscious and unconscious thins, powerful images can surge through, and they are not always gentle. The unconscious does not speak in polite whispers. It speaks in symbols, in emotions, in dreams that break through like sudden storms. Some are luminous, radiant with long, buried truths. Others are dark, filled with the faces of forgotten pain. When we are unprepared, such awakenings can feel like being pulled under by a current we did not know was there. I once spoke with a woman who had adopted a small black cat during a lonely winter. She said it was the silence of the creature that first drew her in, the way it would sit near her without demanding, without breaking the fragile quiet of her solitude. But after a few weeks her dreams began to change. They grew vivid and strange, drenched in color and shadow. She would wake trembling, as if she had been wandering for hours through vast ancient halls, speaking with people she had never met but somehow remembered. Compelled, she began to paint these dreams obsessively, covering canvas after canvas with images she did not understand. "It's as if the cat is watching my soul," she told me, her voice shaking with awe and fear. And as she painted, old grief rose up from the depths of her, memories she had sealed away years ago, sorrow she thought had been buried beyond reach. The cat had not caused her pain, it had simply opened the door through which it returned. The unconscious had sensed an opening and rushed to fill it. This is what it means to say that cats are portals. They do not carry us into the unconscious themselves. They remind us that the door exists, and sometimes they nudge it open. This can be a gift of immeasurable value, but only if we are ready. Too often, we imagine the unconscious as a treasure chest of inspiration, forgetting that it also holds the skeletons of all we have not faced. There are wonders within it: creativity, intuition, deep truths about who we are. But there are also buried fears, traumas, and desires we have deemed unacceptable. To open the door is to invite both. The cat makes no distinction. It does not choose which parts of you are welcome. It simply curls at the threshold while the tide begins to rise. Many who live alone with cats describe feeling watched, not in a menacing way, but in a way that is intimate and unnerving. It is as though the cat sees something behind your eyes that you yourself cannot see. You may feel its gaze on you as you write, or as you sit in silence late at night, and suddenly you are aware of the vast interior world you carry. You begin to feel your dreams more vividly, your intuitions more strongly, your emotions more raw and close to the surface. You may start to question the neat story you have told about your life, sensing deeper undercurrents you cannot yet name. This is the silent alchemy of their presence. They do nothing, yet everything begins to move. The unconscious stirs, the images rise, the soul leans forward to speak, and if you are not prepared, this can be disorienting. It can feel like losing your footing on familiar ground, like wandering into a forest where the paths you once trusted vanish behind you. This is why the old stories say cats walk between worlds, because when you follow them, you leave the narrow daylight path of the known and step into the vast wilderness of the inner world. To host a cat, then, is to make a pact with mystery. It is to say, even without words, I am willing to sit at the edge of myself. I am willing to open the door and see what comes through. This is not a small thing. It requires courage, the quiet, inward courage to meet what has been hidden, to let old grief speak, to welcome strange visions without turning away. Those who lack this courage may grow restless or fearful around cats without understanding why. They may sense, however dimly, that something in them is being called, something they are not ready to face. But if you are ready, or even simply willing, what enters through that door can transform you. The unconscious does not come only with sorrow. It also brings forgotten treasures long, abandoned dreams, the seeds of your truest life. When the cat sits in silence, staring at what appears to be nothing, it may be staring at that part of you, calling it back. It is not asking you to become something else. It is asking you to become whole, and so the warning is not to fear the cat, but to respect the threshold it represents. To live with a cat is to live beside the doorway to the depths of your own soul. It is to risk hearing what you have silenced, to risk remembering what you have forgotten, to risk becoming who you truly are. Not everyone is ready for that, but for those who are, the cat becomes not just an animal, but a guide, silent, watchful, and endlessly patient, waiting at the edge of your world until you are ready to cross. There is something humbling about the presence of a creature that will not bend to your will no matter how gently or forcefully you try to command it. Cats have a way of reminding us that they are not ours to own in the way we often imagine. You can feed them, shelter them, call them by name, but at any moment they may vanish, as if to prove that their allegiance is not a contract but a choice renewed each day. They love on their own terms, not yours, and this can frustrate those who crave the comfort of complete control. But within this refusal lies their greatest lesson. They teach us that no living soul can ever truly be possessed. A cat is the very embodiment of autonomy. It walks through the house as though every room is its rightful domain, but never because you granted it. It comes when it wishes, not when you call, and this quiet rebellion can stir something deep within us. We are confronted with the uncomfortable truth that what we love does not belong to us, not a partner, not a friend, not even a child. Love cannot be caged without losing its essence. The moment we try to turn love into ownership, its spirit withers. The cat seems to know this instinctively, and so it guards its freedom with a kind of divine stubbornness. This is not merely about animals. This is about the human heart and its constant tension between holding and letting go. The cat does not let you believe that affection must be earned through control or demanded through obedience. It reminds you, sometimes painfully, that connection must always be offered freely. A cat will not stay in a place where its dignity is violated, where its natural rhythms are ignored. It would rather retreat into solitude, even starve for a while, than surrender its sovereignty. And in doing so, it calls you to examine the ways you try to control those you claim to love. I have seen this play out in households where boundaries are not respected, where love is confused with smothering, or where fear of abandonment leads to constant pursuit. In such homes, cats often act out, becoming aloof, hiding under furniture, or clawing at things as if to carve space for themselves where none was given. It is almost as though they are enforcing balance, reminding everyone in the home that love cannot survive where freedom is strangled. Some children who grow up with cats learn this lesson early and carry it into adulthood. That closeness cannot be forced, that trust must be earned, and that sometimes the greatest gift you can give another is the space to be entirely themselves. The refusal of a cat to obey is not defiance for its own sake. It is a sacred refusal to betray its own nature, and this refusal forces us to confront something we would rather avoid, our compulsion to control what we love. Many of us have been taught to equate love with security and security with control. We believe that if we can shape the other person's choices, if we can anticipate their every move, then we will be safe from rejection, betrayal, or loss. But love is not safe in that way. It is always a risk, always a surrender to uncertainty. To try to control love is to kill its spontaneity, its beauty, its living pulse. The cat does not allow us to live in this illusion. It will shatter it with a flick of its tail and a silent departure down the hallway. It will remind us that love that is demanded ceases to be love and becomes servitude. And when we are willing to receive this lesson, it can transform the way we relate to others. We learn to hold with open hands instead of clenched fists. We learn that trust cannot be coerced, that loyalty cannot be bought, that the most meaningful bonds are those that are freely chosen each day. There is a subtle pain in this realization. It requires us to release our fantasies of possession, to let go of the idea that anyone could ever complete us or stay forever simply because we wish it. The cat, with its mysterious independence, makes us face the truth that every soul walks its own path, even those we love most. But there is also an unexpected freedom in this. When we no longer cling, we no longer live in fear. We discover that love is not a chain but a bridge, and that those who stay with us do so not because we hold them tightly, but because they too choose to walk across that bridge. The lesson is even deeper when we turn inward. For the cat also symbolizes the autonomy of our own soul, the part of us that refuses to be caged by expectations, whether imposed by society, family, or even our own inner critic. Many of us live as though on a leash, obeying invisible commands we never consented to. Be this kind of person, follow this path, hide this part of yourself, never stray too far from what is expected. But within us there is something that resists, something wild and sovereign that longs to live freely. When a cat refuses to obey, it may be reflecting this inner rebellion, calling us back to our own integrity. If you have ever tried to make a cat do something it does not wish to do, you have likely seen the look it gives you, calm, unwavering, almost amused, as if to say, "You may have power over my body, but never over my will." This is the very spirit of the autonomous soul. It reminds us that true wholeness means living in harmony with our deepest truth, not in constant submission to outer demands. The warning then is subtle but profound. If you seek unconditional submission, whether from others or from yourself, you will be shattered by what the cat reveals. You will find that control brings not peace but resentment, not connection but distance. The more you tighten your grip, the more love slips through your fingers. The cat teaches us that the soul must be honored as free, that real intimacy is built on respect for this freedom, and that to cage what is wild is to invite its rebellion. This lesson is not always comfortable, but it is necessary. To learn it is to grow beyond childish fantasies of possession and into the mature, enduring love that gives space instead of suffocation. The cat does not flatter us with obedience, but it blesses us with honesty. Its very existence is a quiet insistence that love must be mutual, that trust must be freely given, and that freedom is the soil in which love truly flourishes. And if we are wise enough to receive this, we may begin to see every relation, indeed life itself, not as something to control, but as something to honor, to cherish, and to let breathe. There is something otherworldly in the way cats move through our lives, as though they are not entirely subject to the same laws that govern everything else. They seem to belong to the spaces in between, slipping through shadows like whispers, vanishing without a sound and reappearing as though they had always been there. To watch a cat sit silently at the edge of a room is to feel as though one is in the presence of a secret. Their eyes, half closed and gleaming, seem to contain knowledge too deep to be spoken. They carry within them an air of ancient familiarity, as if they are old souls who have walked with humanity since before memory began. And this is perhaps why they draw us so powerfully, because they awaken in us the sense that life is far more mysterious than we dare to admit. Humans crave certainty. We cling to order, classification, and control as though they can shield us from the unknown. We want answers to every question, a map for every journey, a reason for every event. We spend our lives trying to hold back the vastness of existence with the thin fences of logic, because the alternative, the boundless, the ungraspable, is too great, too terrifying. But the cat refuses our fences. It cannot be fully explained, nor fully predicted. One moment it is soft and affectionate, purring in your lap. The next it withdraws, turns away, and vanishes into the night. It is as though it comes and goes according to a rhythm we cannot hear. This refusal to be pinned down is precisely why the cat disturbs and fascinates us. It embodies the archetype of mystery, and by doing so it forces us to remember the great ocean of the unknown that surrounds our fragile islands of certainty. It reminds us that not everything can be understood, not everything can be measured or solved. There are dimensions to life that lie beyond the reach of the intellect, and we are poorer when we forget them. I once had a friend who lived alone, a woman carrying the heavy burden of grief after a loss that had hollowed out her world. In those long nights when the silence was too much to bear, she told me that her cat would sit by her side without moving, simply watching her with those golden, unblinking eyes. At first, she found it unsettling, as if the creature were reading thoughts she could not speak aloud. But over time, that watchful presence became a kind of solace. It was as if life itself, through the cat, was saying to her, "I see you. I am with you, even in this." She said there were nights she wept freely for the first time in years, not because she felt judged, but because she felt witnessed. That is the power of mystery. It does not always give you answers, but it gives you back your soul. The cat did not solve her grief. It did not explain the pain or make sense of it, but it sat there as though holding space for the vastness of what could not be explained. This is the gift and the danger of allowing mystery into our lives. It does not let us hide from the questions we have tried to silence. It asks us to sit with them, to bear the weight of them without rushing to escape. And here lies the profound warning. If you invite the mysterious into your home, it will not stay politely in the corner. It will creep into your mind. It will ask you to reconsider the way you see everything. It will not give you a simple map for life, but will pull you into deeper waters, where certainty cannot follow. The cat is a messenger of this truth. When it sits in silence and looks at you, you may feel that you are being asked a question for which you have no words. You may feel the pull of an unnamed longing, the stirring of old memories, the sense that there is more to your life than you have yet dared to live. Most people find this unsettling, and understandably so. We are trained to believe that everything must be explained, that every mystery is a problem to be solved. To sit with the unknown feels like weakness, as though we are surrendering control. But this surrender is not defeat. It is a doorway. For only when we admit that we do not know can we begin to encounter what is truly real. Mystery is not our enemy. It is the ground of our becoming, the womb from which transformation is born. To share your life with a cat is to be reminded of this again and again. Each time it slips out of reach, each time it disappears and then reappears as if stepping out of thin air, you are reminded that not everything must be grasped, not everything must be contained. Its very presence invites you to loosen your grip on the world, to trust that there is meaning even in what cannot be seen, and this trust changes you. It opens you to wonder, to the quiet awe of knowing you are part of something vast and unfinished. But you must be ready for what this awakening brings, for to embrace the mysterious is to live with questions that may never be fully answered. It is to accept that life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a riddle to be lived. It is to welcome paradox, to find peace not in having every thread neatly tied, but in knowing that some threads will always trail into the infinite. The cat does not resolve this for you, it embodies it. It becomes a reminder that the unknown is not an enemy to be feared, but a companion to be honored. And as you sit with it, as you let it watch you with those half-closed eyes, you may begin to feel that life itself is watching you through them, calling you to step beyond your small certainties and to enter the vast, trembling mystery of your own existence. This is why so many find themselves changed by their relationship with cats in ways they cannot fully describe. Something subtle shifts. They become more reflective, more attuned to silence, more willing to sit with what they cannot fix. They learn that there is strength in not having all the answers, that there is a strange kind of courage in surrendering to the unknown. This is not the courage of battle, but the courage of faith, the faith that mystery is not empty but full, that it is not chaos but a deeper order waiting to be revealed. And so, to let the mysterious into your home is to open yourself to transformation. It is to allow life to surprise you, to teach you, to break your old certainties and invite you into a deeper, wider story. It will not always be comfortable, and it will not always be easy, but it will be real. And in a world so full of illusion, perhaps there is no greater gift than to be brought face to face with what is real, even if it comes to you on silent pause, staring with golden eyes from the shadows, waiting for you to finally meet its gaze. So, was the warning truly about danger, or was it about reverence? Perhaps the message was this: cats are not just animals. They are living symbols, emissaries of the unseen, who awaken the forgotten depths of our souls. To have a cat in your house is to place a mirror of your inner world in the corner of your room, a mirror that walks and breathes. Treat them lightly, and they will unsettle you. Treat them with reverence, and they will guide you. But never forget, when a cat watches you from the shadows, it may be your own soul gazing back.